Okay, good. Okay, sorry about that. I had it in mute. I started early, but then I kept it in mute. Okay, by the end of the class, I'll get it right. Yeah, I was just saying that probably everybody missed that. That is online. For the proposal, you want to go in the sign-up sheet and put the link to the presentation on the link to proposal. Make sure that it's shared with everyone of the instructors and or all USC. And if you have this as a the PowerPoint presentation, make sure that it's not just bullet points, but you have some explanation on what you are commenting on. And then I was going through the fact that this week we're going to have 2 labs. The second lab is this lab X that I'm still working on. Yeah, you as soon as it's open, you can go and use it, and it's going to be updated. So hopefully there is no trouble with that. We're changing. Just wanted to let you know what we're changing. We're changing essentially the last one, I think. Yeah, because there we used a Bootstrap implementation for Vue, and the latest Bootstrap doesn't need that, so we're going to make it simpler. And I'll keep this one just in because it allows you to do some of the fancy things with tables, but there are also other libraries that can be useful for that. So with this said, I'm going to start with today's lab. Yeah, last thing, the people were asking about the quiz. So the quiz is open, and I'll keep it open till Wednesday. That is the quiz that we were supposed to open last week, but then we delayed for the homework, so that's fine. Because this week is 2 labs, there are not going to be a quiz, so we have the option to push it back to next week, or to open it on Wednesday. You tell me what you prefer. This one I want to add also this one, meaning this lab. I want also to add some homework to it. So the homework for this week is fairly simple. It's just adding scales, axes and different scales to the plots that you did last week. And I've added a requirement that is to use the margin convention on all the plots, which you'll see will require a little bit of work, but you should be able to cut your code down quite a bit. For the LabX, what I'll probably ask is that you build a view app with all the same visualization that you've been creating, and you put them in different tabs. So it becomes kind of some type of dashboard. I haven't decided yet if I want you to start using Bootstrap to maybe do a grid layout also. So you can place things in a grid, such as you would do in a real dashboard. But it's about at that level, so shouldn't be too heavy either. Okay, so let's go on then with the lab that is today's topic. So I opened it. Is that the right one? No, this is not the right one. This is too much. This is the right one. So this is the lab A5. I'm going to try to make it right this time. Opening this on the side. So and then install. Oops. Install. Okay, let's see if I can type it correctly for once. Okay, npm run serve, so more of the same. And here, this one, I'm going to try to put it on the side, so your head won't spin, hopefully this time around. Okay, and then we start with the exercise number 1 that we can find in here. Okay, so this is all pretty simple. Doesn't look like what I wanted to have, which is strange, but okay, I thought I changed these. Maybe not. So here we're going to play with time axis, but in a way where we don't get too much involved with the graphic, and it's mainly to show you that oftentimes you need to do more than just a regular axis. You want to build a timeline. And in that case, you may want to leverage D3, but at the same time, if you need to do operation on dates, such as counting number of days and setting up days to deadlines, for instance, then you need, if you need to do that dynamically, you need some type of third-party library that does it for you. So you don't spend your time implementing these things. So in Python, you know that you have search libraries. In Node, there are a few that people use. One is the one that we're using here that is called day.js. And if you go and look in here, it should be listed, day.js. There is another one that is a little bit more complicated to use, but quite similar. That is called Moment. So I picked this one because it's easier. And the exercise here is very simple. We have some schedules for the fall classes for the past 3 years. Actually, looking back 1 year before this one. And we want, you have code to basically do a timeline with this data that is here for those semesters. So if you look at the code, it's commented and it tells you that you basically have the timeline for one of the years. And we're using, you see, day.js and some functionality from D3 that we have used for the axis to try to find out what is the domain of the data, you remember, with the scale. And then do realize the timeline in this in a div. And then your job is basically to redo the same thing for the following year, which is straightforward. So you see that I'm using all the shortcuts that we've learned, the margin convention, which makes it easy to place things around the plot. So here it's you see that we're using the time scale because we need to be placing graphic elements over time, and so we need to compute, even though I don't think that I'm using an axis here, because in a timeline you don't. It's the graphic itself that is the axis, right, for time. So here we still need to take the graphical elements and place them in time. So I'm going just to go and execute this. Oh, we're actually using an axis here. Okay, so I did the right thing, and you see it's done also with a data join. Okay, so let's go and do this. All right. Oh, yeah. Place your code here. Okay. I don't know why it's already there, but which is surprising to me. Do we have already an access that is showing? Oh, okay. So I have already the solution there. Hopefully you don't. Otherwise, otherwise that's fine. So let's redo it so that you see what I wanted you to do. Do you have the solution? Or it's different from what I see here in yours? Okay, so this should be the start. You don't see much here, but if you want to see the SVG, so that you make sure that things are within the range, you know how to do it. You just need to find the CSS for the SVG. There should be somewhere on top here. We can put this to light pink or something. Light blue is good enough. Really? All right. This is weird. Do we have an error here? Or? No error. Okay, so if this happens, it means that that either it gets overridden somewhere, or I'm not using this, which is really weird. So let's try to put the star here to see what happens. Okay, so this works. Okay. Surprising. Okay. Oh, I know why. It's just that we're not using. We have an ID, but what we need is set a class. Yeah. Okay. No. None of the above, right? So the selector here is wrong, right? Everybody sees that? So if I want this to work for an ID, I need to put that, right? I guess I changed the label and then forgot to fix it. And if you want to use a class, but here we're specifying each one on turn, so that doesn't seem to make sense. But otherwise, you would need to put the dot, right? All right. So let's go and fill in just maybe a couple of the blanks. So to create the title for 2019, we basically need to look at the title here. So the problem here is that the title is data driven. So we need to compute this number of days and the number of class days. So I guess this is the number of days for the semester. And the 102 is the number of actual class days starting when the classes begin that you see is different from the start of the timeline that corresponds to the start of the fall semester. So the calculation are done here. So we can just, I guess, copy this. And we need to use the data. So the data are already set up for us, right? And you see it's exactly the same format. So we expect that the same code should work. So here, the only thing that we're doing is using d3 min function that gets us the minimum value that is in this array, and d3 max that gives us the maximum. And then we turn this into a date object with date.js. And date.js basically is using something a little bit more sophisticated than the plain, the vanilla JavaScript date class that doesn't allow you to do operations on date. But here you see that we can just take one of the dates and do a difference in days using this diff function here is part of the JS, because this max and min are the JS objects. Is that clear? There is no nothing very complicated in there. So I need to do the same year. So the first year we compute for the semester, and after obviously we compute for the number of days between the classes begin and classes end. And so here, obviously the classes begin and classes end, that's defined in the data. And this you can see it from the data. The data is an object with labels, and you see that we have one entry that is an object for the class begin that has a start as a date and an end that is not set. And what we do is just a query here the array for the data for 2019 and look for which label we have this class begin. So the find function, that is an array function, does this. This is straightforward from this is just provided by the JavaScript, the standard with arrays. And the find will find the first occurrence. So if you want to, in case you're wondering how do you do if you have multiple occurrences, then you would use, I think there is a find all that will do that. And then we just follow with the same pattern that we have there. So now here nothing is happening because we're overriding the same ID. So I need to change this with 19. And as soon as I save, I guess we're going to see it. And I need to change this to 19 also. And that seems the same number of days. It's possible because, yeah, we will need to verify that, but that seems correct. So then let's go and do a little bit of the plotting. So we look at the plotting code. So for this, I'll need to copy. This is the plotting code that we recognize. So we're using the different scales, etc. So now I thought I was not using an axis, but you see that there is we're just using a time axis here to support the timeline, right? And this you can see. So what type of axis is that? Just by looking at the figure, can somebody tell me? So you remember you have the choice between left, right, up and down, and bottom. So which one is this? Left, right, top, or bottom? How do you recognize it? Just by looking at the axis? You better know it for the quiz because it's in the quiz. So you remember the way the axes are named in D3 is based on where the labels are with respect to the line of the axis. So here the labels are at the bottom, so this is a bottom axis, so we should see it somewhere in here in the code, if I'm not telling you anything incorrect. Yeah, here it is, x-axis and an axis bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Okay, so as soon as I put the code in, what do we expect to happen? Are we going to see a change in the page or no? So I just cut in and pasted the code for the 2018. Nothing. Nothing is going to happen because we're selecting the same div, right? Or span. I don't know what this is. It's probably a div. We're selecting the same with the same ID than before. So I can save and most likely nothing happens. So as soon as I do year 2019, then maybe something is going to happen, but I can tell you that probably not. Oh, something happens. Okay, good. And we still have the problem with the background because I didn't fix the CSS. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here. So we need this, right? Okay, so now it looks good. And you see the power of the. Why do you want to see the background? Usually is when you prototype, because to get the numbers right in the margin convention is not straightforward. I mean, it's easy to do, but you need to tinker a little bit with it. So this is the 19. So here we need to set this up. Yeah, where is the margin convention? Oh, sorry. It's not this one, it's this one. And I think the margin convention, oh, the margin convention was set up already when we did the title. Oh, it's right here. And we're using, so they look the same because we're using the same margin conventions, right? So the only reason to change the background is that you want to see how much space you have. So, because if you don't see it, then what happens is that some of the text on the labels, etc., will not be seen at all if it's outside of the SVG. Or if you're lucky, you're going to see part of it, and then you realize that your margins are not quite enough. So the margin convention is basically reused for all the plots. So this from day here, you see that I use it for the domain. This is the domain of the data. There might be a reason why I'm not getting it from the data. So let's go see. Oh, the start of the semester, where is it? Okay, we could do it, right? The same way we did the class begin, class end. We could get access to the same information. Here, for some reason, I didn't do it. So for 2018, what did we need? The classes begin, right? Where is it? Where is it? 19. Oh, this is for the semester, so it's not classes begin. So we need to, oh, so I don't think it's encoded in the data. Open registration, moving, okay. So you see that there is no start of the semester here. And so you need to go and look it up in right at the top. I think it's here. Open registration. Full semesters. What is that? I don't know. Begin, classes begin Monday, August. Oh, so it is the classes begin. Okay. Okay, I don't know why I don't have this. Maybe it's just because I want to start at the month. I thought it was including the, no, so yeah, okay. I think that's it. So you want that in the timeline, the registration period is included. And so you need to set this up sometime before things happen. So here I think it's just a matter of setting the August for the year that we want to plot. So I'll try to go back up there, and yeah, because you see here that they're the 1st of August. So we just want to set the same year, and here we go to 2020. Now, another reason why we would like to do this is so that we can compare the timelines, right? Because if you have a timeline that doesn't start at the same point in time, then it's hard to compare the events over time. So here we're starting them all in August, and we're ending all in February, and there is really no reason to encode this in the data. What I would do is that I would do this as a constant, which you can, yeah, I mean, a constant fit. Yeah, you would need to write a little bit of code. I guess that's why I didn't do it that way. Either you create 3 constants for this strings here, which is straightforward to do, and I like to put those before. So this would be, I would call it start 2019. And I usually would also use the uppercase to differentiate them from the other variables. And now this is something that is not going to change. So you could just use it a replacement, and if you ever tamper with it, you will know about it because you'll get an error in the console. Okay. So you could save these things here just for the exercise. If I would have to do this dynamically, then this would be a parameter that you can allow people to play with, and in that case, I would look into computing a start based maybe on a month, and then setting up the year for the particular timeline that needs to be worked on. Okay, good. The line 449, 441, 44, sorry. 441, yes. Oh, I need to change that. Okay, good. Yeah, so here we do the data join, so we need to pass the right data. And you see that things change here, so we're happy. So you always want to look, keep an eye on the console as you make change. So always try to have the console open, because if you make multiple mistakes, and then they will all show up in there, and you need to debug multiple times as opposed to one, because usually mistakes tend to pile up. So, okay, so here we're doing 2 data joins, and the reason is that we have the labels and what I call the marks. So the labels is the text, and the marks are the visual marks that are used to represent the events, right? And here in this case, they're rectangles. And so I need to do 2 data join for each one of them. And then I do a little bit of finessing here, so that successive period have different colors, because otherwise, if they're one close to the other, we cannot make up the difference. Okay. So I think this one is another maybe 5 minutes of work, and you have it done. $304, 304, 304. Here we go. This one. Oh, so you're saying that this is wrong. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, this should be 7. 723 is weird. Open registration. I think this is correct, because this is when the registration opens. Yeah, I mean, we can see, because these I copied from the website. So if they're correct here, they should be. They should be, yeah. April open registration. This is in April for 2020. Was that right? Oh, and it was free. Yeah, yeah. So the free, don't get confused. This is the date function that starts at 0 for the months. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Be careful with the date function, because that's kind of tricky. If you're not sure, I mean, in here you should be able to, in the console, to run the to execute some of this date. Let's see, where do we have? So the date.js is just used to compute the date differences, but you can do this thing in the console. Let's see if this works. Yeah, let's see, that seems to. And you see that we get this thing that is a date.js object, right? Then this will probably work with whatever is the last one that we've been executing. Is a 102, yeah. And to answer your question, you can probably certainly just do this, right? So you don't need to put the new here. The console figures it out that you want a new object, and there you see the actual date. Okay. So this one, I think, if there are no more questions, I'll move on. Yep. So let's go to 2. Okay. So here is a basic bar chart with axis and margin convention. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. we can look at the code. This is really straightforward. So another toy example here where we have an array with labels and values. So the values are going to be what will map to the height of the bars. And the labels is what we want to put under the bars to name it. For a bar chart, then the axes are categorical axes. And if we want bars, we need to use the scale band, right? And so all I'm doing here is setting up the scale band and through the domain and range. So the domain is discrete, and these the ABCs that are my categories in the order in which I want them. Yeah, so you don't want to mix up the order there because you want the bars to appear based on the order of the labels. And the range is how much space I want this to take on the page. And then I just set up the inner padding. So this is the space between the bars to separate the bars, right? So when do you want to separate the bars in bar charts? So when do you want to do that? When you make bars on a graphic, when do you want to put space in between? Or maybe I can ask it the other way around. When is not a good idea to put a space in between the bars? So the bars, they're supported by an axis. The axis has a type. Now, in this case, we have categories. It sounds a good idea to put a space because the categories are different things, right? When you do a line chart and you connect dots with the line, it's continuous. So your axis is a continuous axis, right? Now you can do things with bars where the data are continuous. The typical example is an histogram, right? If you do an histogram, you want the bar touching because the bins are continuous, and your axis is continuous. And the default for the padding inner, I don't know what it is. You see, it defaults to 0. So for some reason, the three things that most of the time you're doing histograms. It's either that or maybe the thinking. It's probably more that the thinking is that 0 is usually what you would use also in CSS and so that for positioning, and that's what people would expect to happen for this parameter. So this is in pixels. Sorry, this is a percentage of the range you see, and so it's a value between 0 and 1. So here we're giving a 5% between the bars. So yeah, you need to experiment and see what works for you. It's a percentage because the more things are crowded, the smaller you want the space, as opposed to just go and put an absolute value in there. The rest, I think, is code that we've seen in class, including the data joined down here. So I'm going just to cut and paste this and have it. It should work out easily. Do you have this as in the solution already in there? On your copy, is this happening already? No. Because you see that I have this already there, so I don't know if I did it. No, you don't have it. You do have it. You have it. I'm sorry, I didn't get it. You don't, oh, you don't have it, okay. Yeah, I'm still surprised because you see, I'm making changes, and before I didn't have any change here, so. Okay. So anyhow, so it's already there, so I guess I just cut and paste it. Maybe I'll redo it so that we make sure that there is nothing strange in here. Is this including the ID? Yes, it's including the ID, everything from here. Here we are. So we get our little bar. Okay, so you see that it's not, you know, it works, but we probably want to fix a little bit the margin because this is cut. So here the background is kind of this light gray, so we still see it, and you see that how it is useful in this case. So in particular here for the 50,000, we don't know if it's 50,000 or 150,000 or something different, right? So you need to be paying attention to those each time you do a graphic. So the right, probably we can put, let's put 40. No, not the right, sorry. I need the left. 60. Okay, that's good. Okay, so then what is asked is that you go and play around with setting the padding so that it's 1/3 of the space between the tick marks, and I think it's you just get it by doing like this. Yeah, it's 1/3 of the space. Yeah, the range is between the tick marks. Sorry, and not the whole range of the axis. And you see that this corresponds to 1/3. So we're good. Set the domain using d3.max. So this is fairly easy. Do we have the data set somewhere here? It's data. So we need to do d3.max and data. Is that right? I don't remember this, but hopefully that's the correct. Well, oh, we need to return something because we need to access the data. So here we have arrays of arrays, and we want the second item inside the array. So it's going to be d of 1. Ooh. Okay, so what am I doing wrong here? So let's debug it. So let's see what happens. So if you put the brackets there, you can do multiple lines, but obviously, oh, then we need to put a return, and here what we want to do is put a console.log d. Okay, I guess what's happening is all these errors. So I made some mistake somewhere. Let's kill this and reload just to make sure. So the errors are D1. Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So the error are just coming from the data join, because then the data join is trying to make sense of this domain that doesn't make sense. Because you see what we're accessing here is these arrays. So when you use the D3 max, we're not using it correctly. Can somebody let's see in the one. H1.html. No, that seems right. Oh, it's array of arrays. So we need of one. Yes, we need minimax. Yeah, exactly. But I'm still puzzled why because I'm printing D. Okay, good. I thought that D1 was the array. I was confused here. Okay, so we need the min and the max. So this is yeah. So if we print D of 1 here, we get the values. These are the max. No, yeah, this is correct. So I'm going to get back to this, and we need to pass the min and the max. I'll finish this way. And so obviously we need same, and this needs to be an array. In, yeah, of the same, and if we max. Oh, and the domain here. Oh, sorry, the domain is the ABC, so it's 0. Hopefully this is right. Oh, no, still have a mistake here. It should be like this, and then I need to close it. Let's see. No. Okay, so let's go word. Oh, this is because there is another data that is in here. Okay. So because I have probably some other, yeah, I have this other code that is in here that shouldn't be here. So let me comment this, otherwise we cannot use the console. Okay, so this makes sense. And if I do of 0, we get 8. So this makes sense. Okay. Okay. And then the max should be C. Okay. Let me. So here we had what was the domain? Oh, that was ABC. Oh, I think for categorical, you don't want to pass the min and the max, but you need to pass all the labels, right? Okay. So I think this is done with a map. Did I put it? Okay. Set the domain as D3 max, so it's not hard coded. Okay, let me go back then. No. Okay. Okay. No, the scale band is here. So okay, we're just getting mixed up here. The scale band is already there. So and this is fine. And this one is you need to use the map. Here we do want the values, and we need the min and the max of 1, and so this works. Okay. Okay. It took me 3 hours, but okay. So here what we want to do is yeah, it's to avoid to hard code it so that we can go and change the labels. For the x-axis, this one was the y-axis. I get confused between the two. So here we can use the array map. So if you don't know what it does, then you can just give it a shot here. Dot map, and it wants the callback function as usual. And we're going to say that we're going to map it to D of 0. That returns the same thing, right? That makes sense? So in that case, we just do this here, and we say data dot map, and that gets us through. Okay. So now we can go and change the data as we like, and which is a good advantage. Okay. So here, if we want to format the tick marks with the 1000 because it's more readable, right? So it's easily done. So the format here is set up. This is similar to the Unix function to format time. You can go and read about it in D3 tick format in the documentation. They will point you to the Unix page on what you should put in here. So now here you have what gives this nice case here. So if you want to limit the number of marks on the y-axis, then you go and can change the number of ticks. Now this is an indication. If you want to actually set a fixed number, you need to call another function. Because as you may have guessed, D3 is doing what others are also doing. That is trying to give you give it an indication because you don't really know what is good for the data and the range, and then it tells you what it thinks is good. So in this case, it thinks that you should just have these two labels that are well spaced out around, and so that is enough for people to read the data. If you want a different layout, then you need to force it, and I think that there is a, don't remember the name of the function, but it's a ticks number or something similar to that allows you to actually say that you want a specific number. Okay, so this is done. The pattern here that we're using with the transformation is the same we've seen in class, so this should be familiar. This one is basically using the same code, but we're changing the data. So we can rewrite it if you want, but let me see if there is anything that you need to change there. So you see, I just basically put the data in the same format, and obviously you get what you expect. Yeah, there is nothing much that I have changed, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these I think are exactly the same. So yeah, there is nothing more than needs to be changed. That's good. EX3, that's HTML. So we're moving on to the 3, and let's see how long it takes, and maybe we'll do a break. Okay, so this is just the scatter plot, so it's basically the same thing than the bars, but this time instead for the marks, we're using dots that are mapped through circles. You see it's the same story with the D3 min and max. So here we just replace with the data dot min and data dot max twice. So here you see that you have an alternative to this, because a lot of time you want just to get the range, and so D3 has this D3 dot extend that you can use. Yeah, so maybe we should do it so that you see what it looks like. Is that the actual data that are in there? Yeah, that's the data. Okay, so maybe we take a quick break, and then we'll do it, because here the way you need to access the data is a little bit different. So we may want to play around with this d3.extend so that you know it works. And then I'll let you do this this one that has a little bit more data to it with the log scale. Okay. Okay, so this is already there. Oh, my bad. Okay. Okay, I'll get restarted, so hopefully we can finish them. I see that, oh, people were commenting earlier. Okay, but thanks to those who were putting the solution there in the chat. I didn't look at it. Okay, so I'll restart with the exercise 3, so hopefully we finish early. So I tried to put some references to the D3 documentation. So again, we didn't talk much about that, and I think it's important to understand it. So you'd see the D3 docs, they're split, and they're split based on the library. Because originally it used to be one big JavaScript library. And then Mike Bostock sort of carved out the main functionality into the main D3 library. And then the rest, that is some things that you don't use all the time, ends up in separate libraries, and so goes the same for the documentation. Now, up until now, we've been mostly using things that are from the main library. We'll see how to use the others when we get to look at the layout. That is how to do plots that are not the simple ones that we're doing now. So here you see the, yeah, let me go to this. This is probably shocking to you. So this is the, sometimes you find examples now in observable. So what it is an online notebook. So it's the same thing as than the Jupyter, but it's online for JavaScript. And it's a little bit complicated because when you look at it, normally it's at least for graphics, it's upside down, meaning that because you want the graphic to be on top. And so the code starts all the way at the bottom of the page and goes up. So if you want to use them, you need to be a bit familiar with that. Here I think they worked it out as a little bit of a tutorial. And you see that it's similar to the console. So I think you can press these things, and obviously it prints out the result down there. So if you want, you can go and change this to 40, and then nothing is happening with it. I think it should, but okay. Oh, the result is up there. Okay, I guess that's why. Because I was no. Okay. It takes a little bit to get used, but normally it's interactive. So all these things you can also do in the console if you have a page that has D3 loaded or whatever library you want to use. But we'll need to get familiar with it in case you want to use the examples that are for visualization that are here stored in this observable, on how you basically scrape the code. And I guess in a couple of weeks we'll see that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's always nice to see some of this because people are pretty good with their JavaScript, and so you see that they use all sorts of shortcuts that now we start to understand. So this is notation for the function. Here we're casting the values with a map that returns the same array, but all these get casted to numbers, and that's the result, right? Yeah. And this is the page for the documentation for D3. So these are array functions. So where you have the D3 max, D3 min, etc. Sometimes there are good examples. In here, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to go through, but you see that you have access here to directly to the source code, and then if there are, they give you concrete examples on how to use it. And then obviously there is a whole explanation about how it works. So the D3 extent is also down here, and you see what it tells you what it does. It returns the minimum and the maximum value in the given iterable. So it means that it's an array that you can iterate through. Now, why do they call it iterable? It's because you can have an array of arrays or an array of objects, and it's a shortcut to that, right? Using natural order, because you just use the order of the array that you pass in. Okay, and then you know, the odd cases, you will get an undefined undefined if it cannot compare values. So it means that in order to return the min and the max, obviously it needs to be able to compare the values, and the default is undefined undefined. Okay. Yeah, the accessor, I guess, is in case you need to access the elements in a specific format. Okay. So now we said we go back to here the scatter plot. So I have it already done, so we can just go quickly for it. So we don't lose too much time because it's about the same. So these are obvious to use the D3 min and max. Here is so obvious, we just call the D3 extent with the same information. The code is somewhere. Did I do it? I guess I did it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I did it here. It's a little bit, I did it in a little bit of a complicated way, but so I'm doing a map to return the actual value, and then the D3 min on the array of values here. That's one way to do it. You can also do it by doing D3 min data, and then you pass an accessor that returns the d.h. So you have different options. You can do it the complicated way or the simple way. I prefer to use the simple way. I don't know why this has the complicated way. Maybe because I asked one of the TAs to do it. And where is the one with the D3 extent? Is here. So this one is seems to be correct. So that's a good way to do it. But probably you can also use the same thing that you would use with D3 min and max, where you pass an accessor function instead of doing the map, where you just pass the array. Because here it works only because we're passing an array of values, right? And that's the default of the D3 extent as we saw in the docs. Other than that, I think it's pretty much the same thing that we saw before. And now for the scatter plot of the planets, I think I put it there. So the difference you see it very clearly visually. there is nothing that is happening in terms of the data. I think we use an array of objects here? Yeah, we use an array of objects here. So obviously we need to remap this to make it work, which means that every time we access W, we need to change it to one of the properties that we'll set up based on the value here that are already set up for you. So here the labels we don't really need because we're just doing a scatter plot. We would need them if you want to put annotation on each one of the points, which is when you have that many, probably better to do it with interactivity, such as a mouse over. So we're going to learn how to do this. But for now, these are the mass and this that we want to map to the W and H of the data that we had above. And then the rest is really just that this axis here, you can see that is nonlinear. It's a log scale, and that's just a matter of changing from the linear scale to a log scale, and you're basically done. So if you want, we can look at the code, but that's more or less the few changes that I think were made on that. The rest is, you can see, are basically the same, right? We just changed the keys to access the values, and also obviously on the data join. And where is our log? Yeah, here, scale log, instead of using, they're actually both linear. Log scales, sorry, I missed that. Also the x-axis, so you see it goes in powers of 10. So it's just using scale log. If you don't use the scale log with this type of data, then there is no chance that you can put this in a page because the values are huge, and you'll end up with overplotting if you don't use the space correctly. Yeah, no question with this one? Right, so it's just changing the variable and then using the scale log basically instead of the scale linear, which the rest of the code stays the same. Yeah, so later on when we do the animation, we're going to see how you can animate a scale, so that if you have a linear scale and you want to see how things look with a log scale, then you can smoothly animate between the scales. And that allows you to basically track the data points. Example 4, exercise 4, I don't know if it's example of exercise. Okay, so yeah, this one is the kind of complicated one, and I think I give you a lot of code to do this thing. Well, it's not a lot of code, but it's complicated code. You basically have to just run it, and then I ask you a few questions. So maybe we go about this to try to understand why it's a little bit more complicated to do a line chart than a scatter plot. So the basic premise is with these that we're doing bars and dots quite easily when we have a one-to-one mapping between the data and the marks that go on the graphic. But then the line chart, it's more complicated because if you do just a line chart that is not using any calculation for the line, then you're basically plotting a line between 2 points. We know how to do a bar here and a bar here, or a dot here and a dot here, but we don't know how not to do the line. And for every 2 dots that need to be on the line, just draw the line segment, right? Now the line can be either a straight line or it can be a smooth interpolation line. And that makes things even more complicated. So obviously D3 being a generic tool, it would need to allow you to do all of this. And the basic problem that we have here is that we need to do a data join, not with the original data, but with this concept of a start and an end, right? And then the mark can be anything between a straight line and some type of smooth line. So the smooth lines, we've seen this already, and I told you that sometimes you don't want to have straight axes, and so D3 uses a path, a JSVG path for this. So that's the mark that you will be using for doing the line chart. So if you have smooth interpolation, then the path is going to adapt based on some algorithm. If it's just a straight line, the path is going to be a start here and move to this point. So in terms of the data join, that's what needs to happen. So you basically need to take your data set, your set of points, and generate a set of lines. And then you do this data join with your set of lines, right? And so the code is just doing that. The thing that creates the lines is what is called the line generator. And D3 has this thing just ready for you in D3 line. And you see that the line generator needs an X and a Y because those are the coordinates in the plot of your points. And then you figure out how to generate these line segments. Then when you have, you just need to do a regular data join, right? So this is it. Here we're just using the diffie extent for the domain as opposed to doing the min and the max because it's more convenient. And you see that here we're doing the right thing. We don't need the map. We're just calling the accessor function on the property that holds the data. So this is for the axes. This is also for the axis. So axis left, which means that we want the labels on the left side, so outside of the figure. And then we need to do here a data join for using the result of what the line generator creates. Now, the way D3 does this is that your line segments, you don't get the line generator, doesn't create just an array of lines. What it does is that it returns you one path that has all your line segments. And the reason is that if you want to have some type of smooth interpolation, you're not going at fixed positions. And so there is no way to encapsulate that into an array. It's really a path that you have to work with. And so what you have is basically an array of one. Okay, of one object that is the path that is your whole line chart, the one that we see here. Yeah, and we can go and take a look at it actually. If I can actually go and select it. Yeah, here it is. So there you see the path. It's a move to position 0 for 30, and then this does a line to this position 9 for 13, and then there is another line that goes to 18 384. So this is just a path with straight lines. Yeah, and all these coordinates are in pixels. Eventually, when we get to 890, 116 is the last point that we don't see it here, but it's this point here in the SVG, right? So, not surprisingly, we don't do the data join as we would do. We just do an append for this all path, okay? And this should not be surprising either. Why? Because data, so what does data take? Or when do you pass in here? Or wait, you pass an array, right? And this is always an array. What is one item in your data called? It's datum, right? And so here we have just one element to work with, and so we call data. So we can directly pass this pass element in there. Okay. So that's one of the only instances where you use this data. It's used internally by DeFi, but in the particular case of the line chart, that is kind of the old case, you need to use this data. Yeah, so if you can try to replace with data and you'll see what happens. And it's rather obvious if it works or not. The last question here is can somebody tell me what this D is? The pass, yes. So this is an attribute of the pass element, SVG pass element that you see here. That's the key that is attached to the actual pass command. The pass command is the draw command for the pass that does here the move to line 2. And the D is the property that is attached to it. So here you see the rest of the property that is set up for this pass. Okay. So this one is just cut and paste, and you can answer the question here. And you see that I've put there the answer. So we already discussed them. This one is basically do the same line chart, but with some data that we have some familiarity with. And you see that I didn't do it. But you can get the data from this you can get using the script. So this is just, I didn't put this file in, but you have the script that runs in the page that filters out the countries. So you can just set it up to filter one country. Yeah, I picked Afghanistan. You can pick whichever you like. So you get this data as CSV, and then you know how to import it as CSV and reuse this code, right? So this code you see here, we're loading from TSV. So this is tab separated. With CSV, you need to do the basically the same with here the function that sets the type of the data if they're not strings. You'll see that you need to set up the format of the time to match your data. And I think that there is a little bit of information on how to do that. So again, this is the Unix time format. Yeah, actually, I'm giving it to you, right? But make sure that this corresponds to the format of the data, where it's months, day, and year. The uppercase, I think, is with 4-digit for the year. The lowercase is maybe with two digit. I don't remember exactly the difference, but that should match the format that you get with the John Hopkins data. Okay, 5 is this is the last one. Okay, Vega light line chart with data from Vega dataset package. And I really wonder if you have the same. Do you have the same? Because I thought that this one I removed it. Do you have the same? Okay. I thought I removed it because we already did that earlier. Or maybe not. Yeah, no, we did the line charts, right? But we did yeah, okay. So this one is just straightforward then, because you already did it. So if we already did it in the previous homework or whatever, you just put there that we did it already in the fourth one, and that's good enough. Let me go and check in there again. I don't want to do this. I want to see the start. Oh, so I need to just go to GitHub. 4, 5. Okay. Well, this is I'm lost now. It doesn't look right either. Okay, I hope that you have the right version, because I don't seem to have it, and I thought this was sorted out already with Ancour, but yeah, maybe I have an old copy, and I'm looking here at an old copy. But what do you have for the last one? Is that right? So it's a line chart. Yeah. We never did this one. We did it. Oh, we did this. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm okay. Okay, that's why it's in there. Okay. Yeah, so I don't remember how we did it. How did we do it? Yeah. The external. Oh, so here we're loading from CSV. That's the difference. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, so here is just the loading part that is original. So you should do it. Yeah. So yes and no. So maybe then the sample code there is then confusing. Because here the sample code just is what you've done in the past. So now if you want to work of this file here, then you need to understand how to pass it. So in the earlier, how did we do it in the earlier version? We need to look back at the example 4. Just to compare so that we see the difference. A4. Yeah, let's go look at the solution set. It's either was this is 5. No, we did it already in 5. You see here, loading from CSV and JSON. Yeah, and then that's the one that I was suggesting that you use. Okay. v3.csv, and then oh, this is just for doing the data, and here we have the Vega embed, and how did we pass the data into the Vega embed? Oh, with the URL. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here I don't. Okay. Yeah. I'll get back to you because I don't see why you should do this, because it's exactly what we did last time. Yeah. Oh no. Okay. I see. So okay, I see. I got the point. Okay. So the difference with last time is that this time, instead of going and getting the data, we were using the data from Vega directly. So Vega is like you know, this toy data set that you get with Python. So they have the similar with Vega datasets. And so if you install them with Node, they get installed, and then you can go and use them. And that's what I'm suggesting to do here. And as you can see, they obviously get installed under the Node module, so we can go and see. And it's already done because I guess that's what I'm explaining up there. It's already done because it's in the Node modules. And so if we go down here to Vega datasets, you have a bunch of data sets that are in there, and we should find this particular one that is the stocks that is down at the bottom. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. And there you see that the format for the time here is different than what we have in the other. No, here you don't need to worry, because what happens is that we're not using diffie. So Vega has apparently some machinery that is going to try to recognize the format for you, unless you need to specify it, which probably you don't. Let's go look at the example. Yeah, so you need to say that the axis is of type temporal, and that this is the field in the data that is date, that is here, right? But you don't need to do much more to specify the time, because Vega is going to try to decipher it for you. I'm sure that there is a way to force it into a format if it's not standard, but here it looks like it's a standard format, so he understands it. And the other thing that is interesting here to see is that you see that they're applying the data filtering that we did in D3 last week. Vega, unlike D3, has this idea of managing the data for you. So here you can filter, and this is because this is a higher level abstraction than D3. So in D3 speaking, if you need to do it, if you need to do these kind of things, then you're better off to go and find a library to manage your data. D3 only takes care of doing the plotting part, but the Vega and Vega Lite, they're useful if you want to build dashboards. And this is an operation that you often do in dashboards to filter things out. And so they figured out that that should be included in there. Okay, I guess we're done. Maybe the last word. The reason it works is that because where is it? Data here. Data is a URL, right? So here in this website, they have the data where this page is under data stocks.csv. And because they're running a website, then they can access it. You are running a website with the browser sync. So as long as you start your page with browser sync, you can assume that the data is relative to the page. And the browser sync is started one level up where the node module is, I think. And so that's why you need to set the path in the way I'm specifying it here. Okay. Yeah. So and this is not unlike how you're loading the rest of the libraries in the page. Yeah. Okay. Good.